Milton Presbyterian Church. We're still anxiously awaiting one more member of our group. Like every really good concert that you anticipate, we want to be fashionably late when we start, which is perfectly fine. But it is really good to see everybody out here. I know that we did not advertise this season as much because, like everywhere around the world, we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if our practices would have to be cut short or what would happen with society, so we are extremely grateful to be here. My name is Alex Barnes. I'm the pastor here at the Milton Presbyterian Church, and I've been singing with Sonnenberg for the past couple of years, but minus last year because there wasn't a whole lot of collective singing in the world over the last year, but that's why it is extra special to be singing together here tonight. Now, I will invite the gentlemen up shortly after we check in. In the meantime, say hello to your neighbor. Give a great thanks that they're here. And before we begin, I also want to give a big thank you to all of the spouses of the guys in the group, because while we were having fun singing in our singing group, they were taking care of children, taking care of houses, probably doing some damage control for some silly things that we've done while we were just having a good time singing. So thank you so much for letting us have fun. Yeah, give a round of applause. That was per usual, my wife reminded me to thank the spouses. Tim, do we have a full squad already? Good? Oh, perfect. Well, without further ado, I would like to welcome forward Sonnenberg Station.
What child is this who laid to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping? This
Good afternoon, and thanks so much for being here today. Our first two pieces that you just heard, the first one I wanted to share, What Child Is This? That's one that we've all heard, and I'm sure we're all familiar with. That one I haven't been giving him a shout out, but Winfrey Ressler arranged that for us. He took a common arrangement and made it fit for us. So I'm really thankful that he was able to make that for us this season. And then also the previous piece that you just heard was The Work of Christmas, which could very well be considered more of a secular carol, but it's one that came out recently, and I really appreciate it. The next one that you'll hear is The Holly and the Ivy. Our soloist is going to be Rowan Miller, and in this piece I'd like you to listen to the words because it's a literary device that they're using where the holly is meant to be Jesus and the ivy is meant to be Mary. So if you listen closely to the words, you can think about what this means here at Christmas time. Hope you enjoy The Holly and the Ivy.
Rising of the sun and the running of Beautiful star of Bethlehem, shining afar through shadows dim, giving a light for those who long have gone, and guiding the wise men on their way unto the place where Jesus lay. Beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine on, shine on. Beautiful star of wonder, star of Bethlehem, star of Bethlehem, shine upon us until the glory dawns. Give us a lamp to light the way unto the land of perfect day. Beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine on, shine on. Beautiful star, the hope of light, guiding the pilgrim through the night, over the mountain till the break of dawn, and into the light of perfect day, giving out a lovely ray. Beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine on, shine on. Beautiful star of wonder, star of Bethlehem, star of Bethlehem, shine upon us until the glory dawns. Give us a lamp to light the way unto the land of perfect day. Beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine on, shine on. O beautiful star, the hope of rest, for the redeemed, the good, the blessed, yonder in glory when the crown is promised won. For Jesus is now the star divine, brighter and brighter he will shine. Beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine on, shine on. Beautiful star of wonder, star of Bethlehem, star of Bethlehem, shine upon us until the glory dawns. Give us a lamp to light the way unto the land of perfect day. Beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine on, shine on. Beautiful star of wonder, star of Bethlehem, star of Bethlehem, shine upon us until the glory dawns. Give us a lamp to light the way unto the land of perfect day. Beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine on, shine on. Beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine on,
So as you can tell from the differences of the two pieces you just heard, we do kind of like to go exploring and find varying styles, different pieces, different types of pieces that we're able to sing, because that's really what it's all about. We don't like to just stay in a single lane here when we get together and sing. So that was Beautiful Star of Bethlehem, a gospel and bluegrass tune that's American, written about 80 years ago in the United States in the 1940s. So again, Beautiful Star of Bethlehem, which I'm sure you've heard plenty of versions all around, but that was ours. It actually calls for guitar, but I'm not quite as good as Nate on the guitar, so I sing with the piano. The next one, I promise I'm not going to pound on the piano for the next one. It's a different sort of piece entirely again. From 1824, it's a piece called O Tannenbaum. And O Tannenbaum, we're going to be singing it a cappella today, a piece from 1824 that was adapted from, I learned this the other day, a Silesian carol from the 16th century. And Silesia is a place in Poland where German-speaking Polish folks that live in a certain geographical area. So that's actually where this piece is from. And it all began as people putting trees in their dwellings during the holidays. It didn't really have anything to do with the Christian holiday that we celebrate as Christmas. And then over the years, it kind of morphed and changed into everyone having a Christmas tree. And then now it's commonplace. I'm sure most, if not all of us, have one at home. And also we sing this song, and it kind of blends and blurs the lines of, is this a secular carol or is this a sacred carol? We're not exactly sure. And you probably won't know because we're singing it in German. So good luck with that. Here is O Tannenbaum.
And European harmony traditions. Barbershop music showcases a cappella close harmony with understandable lyrics and singable melodies. We would like to ring a few seventh chords on the songs Coventry Carol and As with Gladness Men of Old.
The next piece we'll be singing and playing for you is called Love Came Down at Christmas. And there are a couple different versions and popular melodies of this song. It's originally a poem by Christina Rossetti, and it's turned then into a beautiful carol. And by all accounts, it's a beautiful carol with many, many different melodies that I've heard, 3 or 4 different melodies that I've heard. The one you'll be hearing tonight was arranged by Howard Helvey, and it is very likely not a melody that you're used to, but I'm sure that if you know the poem, if you know a different version of this, it'll fit right in it'll fit right in your brain as the sort of Christmassy melody that you're used to, but it's going to be something entirely different that Howard Helvey was able to create, but really quite beautiful. The soloist in this piece is Winfred Ressler. Entitled In Dulci Jubilo, which is Latin for Good Christian Men Rejoice. So if you listen really closely, we were talking the other day, some of the guys that they were saying, like, man, the melody that the soloist sings, our soloist is Alex Barnes, the melody that the soloist sings, it's truly the melody of Good Christian Men Rejoice, but it's so elongated. There's such a retardation of that melody that you really have to listen closely for it. And some of them were commenting like, I went back and listened to the stream and I actually heard it. So they were standing in the same choir singing it week after week, and they were singing their own part, and it didn't quite dawn on them because they're listening to their own part and the different melodies. It's hard to kind of elongate that melody in your brain and realize and recognize that it's that melody of Good Christian Men Rejoice. So listen closely to what Alex is singing here. We're also going to be jumping back from Latin to English to Latin to English. So again, good luck with that. We had to work on it quite ourselves. It's a trip for the audience as well. So this is In Dulci Jubilo, and our soloist is Alex Barnes.
Dulci Jubilo, Dulci Jubilo, Dulci Jubilo, Dulci Jubilo, Dulci Jubilo, let us our show, our joy be shining in presepio, and like a bright star shineth Matris in gremio, Alpha es et O, Alpha es et Dulci Jubilo, Dulci Jubilo. O Jesus arule, ai orve, illi ai beseech thee, operati me, my prayer let it reach thee, O Vinceps gloriae, Strada poste, strada poste, O Patris caritas, nativitas, libri we were staying per nostra crimina, but thou hast brought us in cielo gloria. Oh, that we were there, oh, that we were Jesus aurea, where if they be not there, there are angels singing, Nova Cantica, and there the bells are ringing in Regis Gloria. Oh, that we were there, oh, that we were there, in Dulci Jubilo, in Dulci Jubilo, in Dulci Jubilo, in Dulci Jubilo.
Lo How a Rose Are Blooming is our next piece, and this is a piece that many people often kind of interchange the meaning of it from a Christmas carol to even an Advent hymn or an Advent carol. It's from 1599, and we sang it at our church just this morning as thinking more of an Advent sort of way of like what's to come. And it's a really, really beautiful arrangement that goes from homophony to polyphony and then back to homophony. And so listen to the way that the notes are bouncing from part to part, and some of us will change a beat early and some of us will change, it will sound almost a beat late. But if you listen, it's a really beautiful way of everybody kind of going their own way and then coming back together at the end of the phrase. So it's really a beautiful arrangement. Our soloist singing the descant in this will be Sean Rufiner. Here's Lo How a Rose Are Blooming.
Lo, how a rose are
piece is entitled Rise Up, Shepherd, and Follow, and it's an interesting story behind the words of this piece. It's also one that when I selected all of the pieces, I said this last night too, I hate to pick favorites, but this one really turned into one of my favorites. One of my favorites to direct, one of my favorites to hear their blend, one of my favorites to showcase really the range of a men's choir. And it's almost 3 octaves that you're going to hear, from all the way down rumbling in the basement at a low D flat, and then a high B flat that's way above middle C. So it's a great example of what a men's choir is able to do. The piece Rise Up, Shepherd, and Follow, this one is arranged by Frank Almond, and the words are from an 1891 work of fiction. And if you can follow this for a sec, it was in a work of fiction, and inside of that work of fiction, the novelist put a work of fiction that she also wrote inside that. And so in that book, there was a poem. So there was a poem in a book that she wrote for the purpose of being inside of another book. So you're kind of really digging into the text there, but it was such a beautiful poem that it was then lifted and adapted for choral music. So kind of an interesting way to follow the words back to that. But that was in 1891 by Ruth Stewart. So this is Rise Up, Shepherd, and Follow, and our soloist is Steve Zook.
There's a star in the east on Christmas morn. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. It'll lead to the place where the sailors moon. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Leave your sheep and leave your lambs. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Leave your ewes and leave your rams. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow, follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow the star of Bethlehem. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. If you take good heed to the angels' words, rise up, shepherd, and follow. You'll forget your flocks and forget your herds. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Leave your sheep and leave your lambs. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Leave your ewes and leave your rams. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow, follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow the star of Bethlehem. Rise up, shepherd, and
And another familiar one, the First Noel, will be the final piece that we sing for you this afternoon. The First Noel is a Cornish English carol that this version was developed, or the version you and I know, I should say, was developed in 1823, but it was developed by taking different pieces of music, we'll say snippets of music, from other pieces and other thoughts and ideas, all the way back from the 15th century. So this is one of them in our concert this afternoon that is, I believe this is the oldest piece if you consider the source material of it. Obviously, Dan Forrest, who's the arranger of this piece, he's currently actively arranging. He's one of our favorite arrangers and composers. We probably do one or maybe even up to 2 or 3 pieces by Dan Forrest, because he writes so well for men's choirs, and he also writes so well, selfishly, he writes so well for piano players. And so I love it when I can trust that it's going to be beautiful with the choir, but also not just terrible to play. Because sometimes people just throw the notes on the page and say good luck to the piano player. And this totally feels like a piano piece that's written under a choral piece, and it works really, really well together. So this is Dan Forrest's The First Noel, the version, again, that you and I know is from 1823, and this plays with the themes from The First Noel from 1823. Our soloist this afternoon is Tim Fry.
The first Noel
thanks again for coming out, and thanks again to Alex, because we wanted to put together some concerts, and we kind of waited till last minute because of some obvious reasons, and didn't want to schedule way too far out, and he was great to work with, and we're so thankful that we were able to share some music with you this afternoon. So have a blessed Christmas season. Thanks so much.